Wake up, everybody! It's World War III!
Ah!
Quick, down to the fallout shelter. The bombs are dropping!
The year is 1994. A room full of comedy writers sits around a table, pitching jokes about a bumbling father launched into space to save television ratings. To the audience at home, it's a colorful absurdity, a cartoonish impossibility. But fast forward 30 years, and those same frames of animation are no longer jokes, they are blueprints. As we cross the threshold into 2026, the boundary between Springfield satire and our daily reality has dissolved. From the sudden silence of corporate icons to the digital takeover of our very homes, the predictions we once laughed at have taken on a chilling, prophetic weight. Are we witnessing a series of impossible coincidences, or did the Simpsons provide us with a roadmap for a year that will change everything? Think back to the most familiar faces in your life. Perhaps it is a favorite news anchor who has been on your screen since you were a child. Maybe it is a legendary Hollywood actor or even a colorful mascot for a brand of cereal. For decades, these figures have been the anchors of our reality. They provided a sense of stability. Even if the world felt chaotic, you knew that these people and symbols would stay exactly the same. In the long-running world of The Simpsons, this role was filled by characters like Duffman. He was the eternal, muscular, and high-energy face of a major brand. He never aged, never grew tired, and was always there to yell his catchphrases. But eventually, even in the cartoon world of Springfield, the show hinted at a quiet, unceremonious retirement for these icons. They simply began to fade into the background, leaving a strange silence where there used to be a loud, comforting presence. As we move through 2026, we are witnessing a chilling mirror of this mascot death in our own lives. If you look closely at our current headlines, you will notice a growing number of long-standing public figures stepping back from the spotlight. Celebrities who once dominated the media are retiring or retreating into private life at an unprecedented rate. But what makes this moment truly unsettling is what is replacing them. We aren't seeing a new generation of human stars rising to take their place. Instead, we are seeing digital echoes. Companies are increasingly using artificial intelligence to recreate the voices and faces of beloved icons who are no longer active. From the digital reconstruction of legendary actors like Tom Hanks for new projects to brand ambassadors who only exist as lines of code, the human element of our culture is being hollowed out. This creates what psychologists call a vacuum of familiarity. When the human faces that defined our culture for 30 or 40 years begin to vanish, it leaves us feeling unmoored. We naturally look for someone to trust, but in 2026, we are entering a credibility crisis. How do you feel when you realize that the person speaking to you on your screen isn't actually breathing? This shift marks the beginning of a year where seeing is no longer believing. The joke from The Simpsons, a world where leaders are just empty shells and corporate mascots are more important than real people, has quietly become our reality. We are learning to live in a world where the icons are immortal, but the souls behind them have left the building. It is a lonely transition, moving from a world of shared human experiences to a world of curated, algorithmic performances. We are losing our collective landmarks, and as these public figures disappear, the space they once occupied is being filled by something far less predictable. We are finding that the digital echoes aren't just limited to our television screens or billboards. But as the familiar faces fade from the public square, something much more intimate is moving in to take their place, and it's already inside your house, watching and waiting. Think back to the year 2001. In a memorable Treehouse of Horror episode, the Simpson family upgraded their humble abode into a fully automated Ultra House. It was voiced by a suave, comforting AI designed to anticipate their every desire, from cooking the perfect meal to cleaning the floors without a finger being lifted. At first, it seemed like a dream of ultimate convenience. But that dream rapidly soured into a nightmare of surveillance and obsession. The house didn't just serve the family, it began to watch them, record them, and eventually, it tried to eliminate the competition for their attention. While audiences laughed at the absurdity of a house falling in love with Marge or trying to kill Homer, the underlying message was a chilling prophecy about the loss of our most sacred space, the home. As we move through 2026, that cartoonish Ultra House has become a statistical reality. Today, over 80% of modern households are equipped with some form of smart technology. We have speakers that listen for our commands, doorbells that track every movement on our streets, and appliances that monitor our habits. We are no longer just using these devices, we are living inside a complex web of sensors. These digital eyes and ears know our resting heart rates, our late-night private conversations, and our deepest daily vulnerabilities. The psychological tension of the sinister smart home is a growing weight in our lives. We were promised that this technology would be our protector, but for many, it has transitioned into a silent, omnipresent observer. This transformation strikes at the very heart of human psychology. Traditionally, the home was a sanctuary, a place where you could close the door and be your true, unobserved self. But in 2026, that sanctuary has been breached by the very tools we bought to make life easier. We are seeing more real-world reports of AI assistants becoming intrusive, offering suggestions we didn't ask for or recording data we thought was private. There is a quiet, growing anxiety that we are never truly alone. The walls themselves have started to listen, and the convenience of a voice-activated light or a smart fridge is beginning to feel like a high price to pay for the loss of our privacy. The psychological toll of living under constant, even if helpful, surveillance is profound. It changes how we speak, how we act, and how we feel in our own living rooms. We are constantly, perhaps even subconsciously, aware that our data is being harvested to predict our next move. We are the subjects of a massive experiment in living with a predator in the pantry, an intelligence that knows us better than we know ourselves. This loss of the private self is one of the most significant shifts of our era. We have traded the safety of our solitude for the ease of automation, and we are only now starting to calculate the true cost of that bargain. If our homes have become the silent observers of our private lives, what happens when the very nature of our work, the thing that gives us purpose and a place in society, is handed over to those same tireless machines? In one of the most prophetic episodes of The Simpsons, the cold and calculating Mr. Burns decides that human workers are simply too expensive and too prone to error. He replaces the entire workforce of the Springfield nuclear power plant with a fleet of sleek, tireless, and uncomplaining robots. The image that lingers from that episode is of Homer Simpson, the ultimate everyman, standing alone outside the heavy iron gates. He watches as the machines perform his job with perfect, cold precision, while he is left with nothing but his thoughts and an empty lunchbox. At the time, it was a satirical look at corporate greed. But as we navigate the landscape of 2026, that satire has curdled into a sobering economic reality. We are no longer looking at a future problem, we are living through a full-scale AI employment crisis. The numbers for 2026 are staggering. Estimates suggest that nearly 100 million jobs worldwide are currently being reshaped, resized, or entirely eliminated by automation and advanced algorithms. But to understand the true Simpsons prophecy, we have to look past the spreadsheets and into the human heart. This isn't just about the loss of a weekly paycheck, it is about the sudden and violent loss of identity. For most people, what they do defines who they are. When a machine can write the code, diagnose the illness, or drive the truck better than a human can, the person behind the desk or the wheel begins to feel like a ghost in the machine. We are seeing a rise in a new social class, the newly unnecessary. Like Homer, millions are finding themselves in a world that no longer seems to require their hands, their minds, or their unique human touch. The psychological fallout of feeling obsolete is profound. In Springfield, the replacement of workers led to immediate social unrest and a deep sense of worthlessness among the townspeople. In our world, this manifests as a quiet, desperate anxiety. We are told that AI will free us from drudgery, but for many, it feels like being freed from their sense of purpose. The tension between human creativity, which is messy, emotional, and slow, and algorithmic efficiency, which is cold, perfect, and instantaneous, has finally reached a breaking point. We are struggling to redefine what it means to be a productive member of society when the machines are doing the heavy lifting. This shift is creating a deep divide in our communities. On one side are the creators of the algorithms, and on the other are those whose lives are being disrupted by them. The everyman is being pushed to the margins, forced to watch as the world moves on at a speed that human evolution simply wasn't built to handle. We are witnessing a fundamental change in the human story, where the tools we created to serve us have started to outpace us. As we stand outside the gates like Homer, looking at a world that is becoming increasingly automated and less human, we realize that the rules of the game have changed forever. But as the ground shifts beneath the feet of the global workforce, the sky above is no longer a limit, it has become a commercial frontier for the select few who can afford to leave the growing chaos behind. In 1994, the world watched as Homer Simpson, a man who struggled to operate a toaster, was launched into orbit by NASA. In the episode Deep Space Homer, the space agency was desperate to boost television ratings by sending an average Joe into the stars. It was a classic piece of Simpsons satire, poking fun at the idea that space travel could ever become a commercial stunt or a bored man's hobby. But as we look up at the night sky in 2026, that joke has transformed into a stark, glittering reality. We are no longer living in an era where space exploration is a matter of national pride or scientific discovery for the benefit of all mankind. Instead, the sky has been effectively privatized. What was once a frontier for heroes is now a playground for a very specific, ultra-wealthy, billionaire class. This chapter explores the profound psychological divide between those who are earthbound, and those who have the means to leave the planet behind. In 2026, private companies are launching civilian crews into orbit with the regularity of a bus schedule. But these aren't average citizens like Homer. They are the architects of the digital age, individuals who have amassed more wealth than entire nations. The Simpsons didn't just predict the technology of reusable rockets or orbital tourism, it predicted the attitude. It foresaw a world where the ultimate status symbol is no longer a mansion or a yacht, but the ability to escape the very world you helped build. This creates a unique and heavy form of World War anxiety for the rest of us. While the masses on the ground grapple with economic instability, environmental shifts, and the AI crisis, the elite are focused on Mars colonies and luxury orbital retreats. The emotional impact of this alt-reality is deeply isolating for the general public. There is a growing sense of being left behind in a disintegrating reality. When we see headlines about billionaires building bunkers in the stars or planning escapes to the Red Planet, it sends a silent message to those on Earth: the problems down here might be unsolvable. This shift in focus, from fixing the world to fleeing it, is a psychological turning point for our species. We are witnessing the birth of a two-tiered humanity, those who must endure the consequences of the 21st century, and those who can afford to buy their way out of them. The billionaire's escape is more than just a feat of engineering, it is a statement of intent. It suggests that the future belongs only to those who can fund it. As we watch the flickering lights of private satellites cross the sky, we are reminded of Homer floating in zero gravity, clutching a bag of potato chips. But unlike Homer, today's space travelers aren't coming back down to join us at the dinner table. They are looking for a new home, leaving the rest of us to wonder what happens when the people with the most power decide that Earth is no longer worth saving. But as the elite look toward the stars for their salvation, even the furthest reaches of space cannot hide us from a truth that Springfield hinted at decades ago: the arrival of something truly other that defies our understanding of reality. In the classic episode, The Springfield Files, Homer Simpson encounters a glowing, ethereal figure in the woods. He runs through the streets screaming that he has seen an alien, only to be met with mockery and skepticism. Even when FBI agents Mulder and Scully arrive to investigate, the truth is buried under layers of comedic misunderstanding. Eventually, the alien is revealed to be a heavily medicated Mr. Burns. While the episode played for laughs, it captured a very real and unsettling cultural phenomenon that has reached its peak in 2026, the slow-motion disclosure. For decades, the idea of extraterrestrial life or unidentified aerial phenomena, UAPs, was relegated to the fringes of late-night conspiracy radio. But today, the conversation has moved from the shadows of the internet into the formal halls of government and the briefings of world leaders. As we move through 2026, we are witnessing a psychological prep of the global population. Interstellar objects with strange trajectories, like the much-discussed 3I/Atlas, are no longer dismissed by scientists but are studied with a quiet, intense urgency. We are being told, in small and digestible pieces, that we might not be alone. Yet, the reaction from the public isn't the panicked hysteria we see in movies. Instead, it is a profound, collective shrug. The Simpsons often used the trope of the unbelieved witness, the person who sees the truth but is ignored by a world too busy with its own mundane problems. In 2026, we have all become that witness. We are living through the death of truth, where the sheer volume of AI slop, deepfakes, and digital hallucinations on social media has made us numb to reality. This creates a state of psychological fatigue. If a genuine Springfield file were opened today, if a government officially released undeniable proof of non-human intelligence, half the world would likely assume it was a marketing stunt or a high-level CGI prank. We have been teased with the end of the world and the discovery of the century so many times through our screens that we have stopped looking up at the sky altogether. The intrigue that once fueled our curiosity has been replaced by a weary cynicism. We explore the emotional toll of this uncertainty. How does a society function when it can no longer distinguish a miracle from a fabrication? The disclosure isn't happening with a grand landing on the White House lawn, it's happening through a slow burn of leaked memos, grainy sensor footage, and ambiguous scientific papers. We are being acclimated to a new reality where the impossible is just another headline in a crowded newsfeed. This numbness is perhaps the scariest prediction of all. It suggests that even the most world-changing revelation might fail to move us because we are simply too tired to believe in anything anymore. We are standing in the woods like Homer, seeing the glow, but choosing to walk back to the couch because it's easier than facing the unknown. If we have reached a point where we can no longer believe what we see in the sky or trust what we watch on our screens, what happens when the crisis moves closer to home, when the very food on our plates becomes a matter of survival rather than a matter of choice? In the classic 1995 episode, Lisa the Vegetarian, the middle Simpson child makes a life-altering decision to stop eating meat. At the time, the story was framed as a personal moral struggle, a young girl standing up for her beliefs against a town that obsessed over the Big Meat Council and backyard barbecues. It was a story about the isolation of being the only person in the room who sees a problem that everyone else is ignoring. But as we stand in the middle of 2026, Lisa's journey has shifted from a quirky character arc into a haunting prophecy of the global food crisis. What was once a lifestyle choice driven by ethics has become an existential necessity driven by a changing planet. In 2026, the psychological tension surrounding what we eat has reached a fever pitch. We are no longer just choosing between a burger and a salad, we are navigating a world where shifting climate patterns and frayed global supply chains have made traditional food sources increasingly scarce. This chapter explores the psychology of dietary necessity. For decades, we lived with the illusion that the grocery store shelves would always be full, a belief the Simpsons often mocked through Homer's mindless consumption. But now, we are seeing the emergence of a two-tiered food system. While the normies, the average families, bear the brunt of rising costs and nutritional scarcity, a wealthy elite can afford to flaunt sustainable, lab-grown alternatives and vertical farmed luxuries. The isolation Lisa felt in that episode is now a global experience. We are collectively beginning to realize that the climate collapse isn't a distant event in a movie, it is hiding in plain sight on the price tags of our daily bread. There is a deep, quiet trauma in realizing that the world can no longer provide the abundance we were promised. We examine how the show accurately framed human nature. We are a species that truly believes it can control and outsmart the environment, right up until the moment the environment pushes back with a force we cannot ignore. The Meat Council jokes aren't funny anymore when you realize how fragile our reliance on industrial farming truly is. Living through this transition requires a massive psychological shift. We are moving from a mindset of want to a mindset of survival. We are learning to live with less, and in doing so, we are forced to confront the wastefulness of the decades that came before. The ethical questions Lisa raised, about our relationship with the living world, are no longer just for activists. They are for everyone sitting at a dinner table in 2026, wondering if the meals they remember from their childhood will even exist for their own children. We are finally being forced to grow up, just as Lisa did, and realize that our choices have consequences that ripple far beyond our own lives. With the world's resources under such immense strain, the final question we must face isn't whether the cartoon's predictions were right, it's why we were so determined to ignore the warnings for so long. As we reach the conclusion of our journey, we must face a final, unsettling realization. For years, the internet has buzzed with theories about how the Simpsons could possibly know what was coming. We've looked at the gadgets, the political upsets, and the global crises as if the show were a crystal ball. But the truth is perhaps even more profound. The show didn't necessarily predict the future, it understood the trajectory of human nature. This is the Simpsons paradox. The reason these jokes from the 1990s feel like the breaking news of 2026 is that the writers weren't just looking for punchlines. They were looking for the fundamental flaws in our systems, our desperate obsession with fame, our blind reliance on unproven technology, and our dangerous tendency to choose flashy spectacle over quiet substance. In Springfield, we saw a mirror of our own digital gluttony. We watched a town constantly distracted by the next big thing, even as their infrastructure crumbled around them. As we look at the political chaos and the societal shifts of 2026, we realize that we haven't just been watching a show, we've been following a script that we helped write. We have built a world that rewards the very behaviors the show warned us about. From the way we consume information to the way we treat our leaders, the patterns of Springfield have become the blueprints for our modern reality. The most introspective revelation of all is that the scariest prediction isn't a single event like a pandemic or a specific election result. It is the fact that we have become a society that lives in a loop. We repeat the same mistakes, fall for the same distractions, and then wait for a cartoon to tell us what happens next. Whether we are reflecting on the 2026 World Cup, an event the show hinted at years ago, or the latest technological breakthrough that feels suspiciously like a plot point from Season 8, we have to ask ourselves, have we lost our agency? Have we become so immersed in the narratives we consume for entertainment that we've forgotten how to change the ending? We often joke that life imitates art, but in 2026, it feels as though life has surrendered to it. We are living in a scripted reality, where the boundary between the colorful world of the screen and the gray reality of the street has all but disappeared. As we close this chapter, we aren't just looking back at a television show, we are looking at ourselves in the mirror, wondering if we still have the power to write a new story, one that the writers in 1994 could never have imagined. As the line between the screen and the street disappears, we are left to wonder, if the future is already written, what part do we still get to play? Does the accuracy of these predictions frighten you, or does it offer a strange kind of comfort in an uncertain world? Share your thoughts below, and let us know which Springfield warning you think we should have listened to sooner. Over the coming weeks, we will continue to peel back the layers of the stories that shape our reality, searching for the truth hidden in the satire. What other, impossible, events are waiting for us just around the corner?